Manipur's Chief Minister Biren Singh uploaded a video on 25th April demonstrating how his administration has been effectively combating the state's severe drug problem. He informed that the government has seized heroin, opium tablets worth over rupees 60,000 crores, destroyed over 20,000 hectares of poppy plantations, and the War on Drugs campaign was started in November 2018 by the Manipur government. And according to the BJP, the campaign resulted in remarkable achievements, including the elimination of 3,420 acres of illegal poppy farms. All right, let's listen into this reaction that also came in.
Link यात्रे, मां link यात्रे लगे, मां पादरो निकालो.
All right, joining us to talk more about this is Major General Sudhakar Ji, geopolitical, strategic and defense expert. Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, also joins us on the show. Rami Niranjan Desai, Northeast expert, is also joining us on the program. And Major General Rajan Kochar, senior defense expert, is with us on this important discussion as well. Rami Niranjan, I'll begin with you. What do you make of this incredible achievement? You know, although we have seen in the better part of the last year that Manipur has had its own problems. They have been political, they have been related to communities. The government has been trying to douse, a lot of these tensions and friction which has existed and made, Manipur a little unstable. But the fact of the matter is that we need to talk more about what the positives have come out from Manipur lately than, the distorted rhetoric which has also been picked up by the Western media from time to time.
Good evening, and I think this is a great line to pick up from. When you talk about the Northeast, sometimes I feel I've been studying it for over 15 years, and I feel that every time there's a conflict, there seems to be focus on the Northeast, not when there's peace. So, I'm glad that you're taking this tone. Having said that, we've always said this, all analysts have always said this right from the beginning, that, the Manipur conflict was a result of many other complex issues. It is not a simple issue of just two communities clashing with each other. We've seen what has been happening in Myanmar. It's been in a civil war-like situation. We've seen the instability have impact on the Northeast. And Northeast, when it comes to situations like this, has always been in a precarious position. When we talk about conflict, illegal arms, drugs. This is all a nexus, and this has huge repercussions on society on ground. There was a time when Manipur used to have the highest HIV numbers in the country. Now that has shifted to Mizoram, but the staggering amount of complexities that, have come in from the porous borders that we have. Also, the geopolitical situation is very, very difficult to understand, we've heard what the Chief Minister today has said, but they've taken a concerted effort in stalling this sort of nexus for a very long time. Right at the peak of the conflict, I was on ground and I was in a lot of these areas. I saw a lot of, in the hill areas, I saw a lot of the hills that had been, erased of the forest cover that they had, and this was obviously the kind of opium production that was happening there. Also the kind of landing that is happening there. Last year, just between January and December, there was 181 crores worth of methamphetamine tablets that was seized on the border in Manipur. So these have huge, and we know that the kind of money that you make out of this is also used for the illegal arms trade. So all of this is connected, which culminates into the kind of conflicts and insurgencies that the Northeast has seen for a really long time. Now, also, I have to mention here, when the West, you mentioned the West commenting on this and so on and so forth, when they mention, this is such a complex area, they're only looking at it at a surface level. Ever since the Taliban took over power in Afghanistan, 90% of the opium production has moved to Myanmar. Again, this has had very grave consequences to a lot of our national security imperatives on the border. So all of this has to be taken into consideration. And the fact that government, state government, central government have taken appropriate action, and there is, of course, much more to do, but this is a continuous process. I think, it must be welcomed, because this is not a situation that is going to just go away. This is a situation we've seen before. We are going to see these situations crop up ever so often. And I think even initiatives like, the border fencing, which is not a physical fencing throughout the 1,643 kilometers of the Myanmar border like most people would think. But even those are really important initiatives to take. So I think, what the CM has said on the 25th on the war on drugs is a very important statement. We must welcome it, but we must also look at what the future projections are, what the trajectory is, and how this can be curtailed with consistent political as well as security initiatives.
All right. Sumit Peer, how do you see this situation? For the past few months, we have only had negative news coming in out of Manipur. But this obviously shows the intent that the government is employing there. This also shows that drugs and the menace related to drugs in the society, including in Manipur society, is responsible perhaps for a lot of upheaval that has not settled since the late 90s in this part of the country.
Vineet, thanks for having me on your show. If you remember, Vineet, for months now, I have been maintaining one constant statement on national TV. Manipur problem is all about drugs. It's all about poppy. It's the poppy war. What you see is the repercussions of the war. Because if you take 60,000 crores of tape, let's say broadly speaking, $10 billion. If you are getting thousands of acres of land freed from the poppy cultivation, it's another $20-30 billion of production capabilities. If you look at the illegal farms, 3,400 hectares and another 5. If you are going after a cartel whose money is around $50 to $100 billion, do you think they are going to let you live in peace? They will not let you live in peace. They will use a minimalistic incident to start a fire. How did these terrorists get weapons? Where did the weapons come from? How was the terror so organized? Why was one particular community targeted? When the Honorable Court gave them a special status, why did suddenly a march of 100 people become a disaster? Northeast has been always under this influence, because what rightly said by the fellow co-panelists, the money is used to get drugs, get illegal arms. Then there's a Myanmar angle, there's a China angle. We know China and Myanmar were all acting in it. We know China was acting in trying to disrupt India and Modi government through Myanmar. And unless and until you break their financial backbone, it's like when you do what you did with the Hurriyat in Kashmir. You strip the money out of them, there is no patharbazi, there is no terrorism any longer. So as long as the 10, 20, 50, $100 billion was coming to them, the Northeast will keep on boiling. So, but there was no other government who had the courage to go and take them head on. People will, okay, bhai, tum thoda shant raho, hum bhi thoda shant rahe. That has been the policy. But Biren Singh ji and Modi ji and the double engine Sarkar decided that we have to get rid of the menace. Let's go after the drugs. And incidentally, after Afghanistan, Taliban got rid of 90% of the drugs. So if you will not go after Manipur and you will not go after the this area hammer and tongs, all the production will shift here because you're on the golden triangle. Opium has to come from somewhere. So opium was cultivated here. This was a big business. They used all this. The Honorable Court decision to have this communal violence and to make it look up between the two communities, because it was not never a community fight. The communities lived in peace for thousands of hundreds of years. How did one decision make it such a big disaster? Where did the weapons come from? Where was such a organized loot happening? How was such a organized disaster taking place simultaneously? Where was these weapons coming? Where was our training coming? Where was this sophisticated weapons coming? How long para-SF and army and other elite forces have been battling them? Do you think they were ordinary militants or terrorists with AKs? No, there was much sophisticated training there. Possibly Arakan's army man had been infiltrated into Myanmar. They wanted to burn the whole of Northeast to teach a lesson to Prime Minister Modi. But you have to congratulate Modi ji, Amit Shah ji, and to congratulate Mr. Biren Singh. Now we know what we have been saying and we have been shouting on the top of our lungs. Now we have the numbers out. These many thousands of acres, this much of drugs seized, this is what I've done. If you look how much drug we are seizing at, Mundra port, here and there. Thousands and thousands of crores of drugs are seized by India. I think we are seizing more drugs than United States of America. That is the credit our government gets. But what happens is opposition was trying to make it a Hindu versus Christian problem, a Methi versus Kuki problem, how Modi ji is unstable, how Biren Singh should resign, because they wanted to protect this cartel. Now the question is, whose dictation were they getting? Was this Communist Party of China, where from the Myanmar junta, or was the junta acting through the Myanmar? What was the role of Arakan's army? Remember the attack on Colonel Santosh Tripaঠি's convoy? From that day, I've been telling this was a precise attack on a convoy wherein you took all the QRT team, you took the colonel and his wife and his son. It was not done by ordinary militants or terrorists. It is a very sophisticated people with high amount of military training who could do this. So it was the Chinese game plan which was playing there because Modi ji showed China its place, which they did not like. So obviously they tried to get even in Manipur, and these all militias and all groups were used. And now, by the grace of God, you have cut their financial muscle substantially. We need in due course of time, you will see peace and tranquility coming to the region. You will see whole of Northeast getting stable. Unless and until you cut the drug money, unless and until you cut this free cash coming into the system, you will never have a Northeast stable. You will do a peace treaty with one group. After 5 years, another group will crop up. You will do a peace treaty with another group will crop up. Who is fueling this? Where is the money coming from? How did the Kashmir settle ultimately? It settled when you cut the financial muscle. Now that begs one question: when it can be done in Northeast, when it can be done in Myanmar, why it can't be done in Punjab? What is stopping Bhagwan Manji in doing this in Punjab? Why we say Purta Punjab? We have all the notions about Punjab. Why Punjab cannot be controlled? Because that is the political will. Here you had Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Biren Singh, and you had Amit Shah ji on the one tandem. Khatam karna, we have to eliminate all. So that is how it happened. Okay, there was a lot of political muck, a lot of things were orchestrated, a lot of women unfortunately paraded naked, and a lot of incidents happened which should not have happened. But the end result is that we are talking of peace, stability, and a stabler region there. The question is, if we could do it in Kashmir, if we could do it in Manipur, why we are not able to do it in Punjab? And let me tell you, there's another hot spot which is coming up, Vinny, that is Tamil Nadu. A lot of these crystal meth consignments are coming into India now, Tamil Nadu. Sri Lanka, Tamil Nadu. And who's the biggest producer of crystal meth? China. And how much does a 20 kilogram, a bag cost? A 20 kilogram bag costs, I think, 200 crore rupees.
200 crores, yeah.
200 crore rupees, 200 crore ka 20 kilo ka bag. Right. That is the menace we are fighting, Vineet. And we have luckily got rid of Manipur. Otherwise, you see, they
You're absolutely right, Subit. Subit, you're absolutely right. And General Sudhakarji, there are vulnerabilities in Manipur, which have always existed. Apart from the infiltration that happens, apart from the problems at the border, apart from, the solidarity, with Chinese help and assistance, all of these things cannot be sorted out in a day. And of course, the violence that we have seen between these two communities have only rendered these vulnerabilities a lot more exposed than they ever were. But, the points that Sumit has made and the developments that we have mentioned, and I mentioned at the start of this show in my monologue, continue to show that the intent by the government is solid, it's stolid, and it's working.
Yeah, Vinit, good morning. Because I'm on the west coast of America, along the Pacific coast now, and good evening to all our viewers. I understand the time at India when the show is being beamed. As regards to this particular show, I must compliment NewsX again that it has been picked up and being flagged and highlighted to the best possible level. As far as Manipur is concerned, I would again start by saying compliments to the co-panelists who have covered it beautifully. I would start by saying, do not look at any problem in relation to national or global security in isolation. There is a big design, there is a big thing which is happening, which is missing the eyes. So when we talk about Manipur, Manipur did not start on 3rd of May last year. It started a long time back. Right since 1947, something had been actually simmering. So to respect the time that you have given me and give out, there is a perspective which is linked with China. There is a perspective at the local level, I would say Myanmar and Manipur. There is also a perspective at the national, how is it impacting? And compliments to both the co-panelists, they have covered very of the important issues. But I wish to highlight the following. First and foremost thing is that how is it impacting India in the current contemporary period? It is impacting India because we have an Act East policy. It is impacting India that China is going all out in a covert manner to negate all our effort. It is impacting India because the trilateral highway, which is connecting India, Myanmar, and Thailand, over a distance of 1,700 kilometers, more than 70% of the infrastructure is completed. Balance is 30%. I think if we go full hog, regardless of all these things happening, by the end of 2025, we should have actually pulled it off in a favorable manner. And that is going to actually give us a thumping kind of a success as far as Act East policy is concerned. A point associated with Act East policy is a Ganga-Mekong or the Mekong-Ganga cooperation in which 6 countries, we have multimodal transportation, we have communication network, we have host of other activities, cultural, tourism, etc., which is going to give us a huge connection with the Southeast Asian or the ASEAN nations. Particularly, I would talk about Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam to large an extent. If that comes in our favor, I think it would be a very win-win and hunky-dory situation as far as India is concerned. Last but not the least is that Manipur. When you talk about Manipur, there is something happening in Myanmar which has got a direct bearing on the Manipur. There are certain things which have taken place in the year 2008 that is called the suspension of operations. When you talk about suspension of operation, it is very, very relevant and important to go into the deeper aspect of SOO. What all did it encompass? When you suspend an operation, there are multiple stakeholders who have to suspend their activities. Now that those activities have been revived somehow or the other, the stakeholders have come back to, take to the arms and fighting against each other. I think we need to look at the issue de novo in a holistic manner. And one point linked to this is free flow of weapon systems from a place called Riuli along the northern border of Myanmar with China, which is there in Yunnan province. These weapons are available at throwaway price. It comes through Myanmar, through different kinds of stakeholders. I would like to take the names because a couple of them would feel very offended and offensive. It comes into our Manipur in large quantum. People are saying there are 5,000 weapon systems. I am here in touch with leading think tanks in USA. I would like to agree with Rami Desai, what she said. There is a huge vacuum. Either there is negative reporting or there is a huge vacuum of information here. The right kind of information is not coming or catching the attention of the Western media. We need to do something in a calibrated way.
Let me also rope in General Rajan Kochar into this. General Kochar, your assessment of the situation as it stands today. Obviously, we are celebrating this feat, but we cannot rest on our laurels when it comes to Manipur. It has the propensity to be exploited, and we know that.
Yeah, this has to be done in a very, very incremental manner. The government is on the right path, I would say, and Sumit has brought out his political assessment. Without getting into any political sort of assessment, I would like to speak from a military point of view, from a defense point of view, from a security point of view, because we have a 398 kilometers border with Myanmar, and not only Manipur, there are four states involved: Nagaland, Mizoram, and Arunachal Pradesh. And Arunachal has the longest border with Myanmar. So this problem is not restricted to Manipur when we talk of drugs, because this border is all through 1643 kilometers or so. So this problem of drug trafficking has been on for a very long time, and the free movement regime has actually added to the problem. If you remember earlier, it used to be 40 kilometers. In 2003, the government reduced it to 16 kilometers, and now the Home Minister has suspended it. And there has been a lot of criticism in the Western media for the reasons what Colonel Sudhakar has just highlighted, that this kind of projection of ours or a point of view of ours is not very largely heard in the Western countries and the West Asian countries also. So the point here I would like to bring is there are two aspects to the problem. One is the political aspect and one is the security aspect. The political aspect has to be sorted out between the communities, the Metis and Kukis. There is a mistrust, and the people I have actually served there, and the army officers who have got their ethnicities in those places. A Kuki, a friend of mine in the army, and a Methi friend of mine in the army, I have been speaking to them. So the point is that this political mistrust also has to be addressed, and I'm very happy or glad, I would say, that one aspect or one major aspect of the problem which was related to drugs and arms trafficking. You see, what is happening is a Kuki national army gets created, it gets in arms. The China support is very predominant. I tend to agree with General Sudhakarji when he brings in the role of China to create this sort of a problem in our look east and far east policy, which is not taking off in the manner we would like it to take off. And it was supposed to actually connect us right up to Thailand and bring in, trade, and so many activities were involved. The same thing is happening with the Middle East Economic Corridor, where we are having the problems in the Middle East with Iran and other countries. So I'm just saying this, our foreign policy, unfortunately, China is a big spoke everywhere. He is a spoke in the Middle East. He's a spoke here. And we have to ensure, now the border fencing has started, because see, this is one area which has to be monitored very, very closely. We need to have a proper border management system, which was lacking here in these 1643 kilometers. And that is why the kind of infiltration which was taking place from across the border, the arms were actually coming in, the drugs were being trafficked, and there is a lot of money involved. In this report of the Chief Minister itself, it brings out the number of crores of money which was actually coming into Manipur, and it was being exploited by these vested interest, because today anybody can be bought with money. This situation is there in the whole
Right, so we've
world.
run out
It
of
is
time.
happening.
We've run out of time. Rami Niranjan wants to go, slip in a point quickly. Rami, quickly, please.
Thank you. I, largely agree with all my fellow panelists. They have a lot of experience on the region. But let me also say this. Of course, China has always had an expansionist agenda. They've always played a role in the Northeast. We know that. But with the implosion happening in Myanmar, with what we've seen with the first operation that took out with the Three Brotherhood Alliance in the northern part of Myanmar, we know that China is also dealing with the repercussions of the problems happening in Myanmar. If we have the trilateral highway, they have the Shabshu port. If our Kaladan multimodal project is being impacted, there is a huge cybercrime unit in the Kokang region that impacts them as well. So things aren't going to be very easy for China either. And I think we must keep that in mind, and we must use that for our own benefit as well. But having said that, like my previous panelist said, that, the revocation of FMR, the fencing of this region, which is going to be an integrated system, is going to be hugely important for us to, safeguard our borders. And, the northwestern frontier has already been I'd say it has been limited for us. We shouldn't and we cannot allow the northeastern frontier to go through the same direction, So I think
All right, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I apologize, Sumit and General Sudhakar. You've completely run out of time.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.